What if Death Stranding stripped out the monsters and sneaking, shrunk everything down to Serenades pixels, and said, look, we're just going to talk about loneliness, AI, and mail? That's basically fading Serenades. The question is, does that actually sound like a vibe, or like a 4-hour chore list in cute packaging? Fading Serenades is a solo dev project from Bernie Wick, and all 3 reviews agree on one thing right away. This game is cozy. You play as Callum, a courier from the mainland, sent to Clifford Island with your AI companion Par, who looks like a radio and acts like Big Brother in your backpack. The island is populated almost entirely by older residents who can't make the trek across cliffs and streams anymore. So you become their lifeline, hauling parcels, tools, and little bits of their lives back and forth. On the surface, it looks like a small, chill delivery sim. Underneath, there's a bigger story ticking away. Dual Shockers talks about the neighbors as charming archetypes. Cooper, the hot-headed postmaster. Baron, the laid-back musician fisherman. Himi, the grateful farmer. Samuel, the grumpy engineer. So many games and the sixth axis go deeper, pointing out the fade, a purple substance that wrecked the world off island and symbolizes pollution, surveillance, and a tech-heavy society that quietly suffocates people. Clifford's Island is a refuge where mainland tech doesn't quite work right, and you're caught between that controlled world and this weird little pocket of resistance. Here's where the reviews start to diverge. The sixth axis likes the sinister hints and bigger questions, but says the ending doesn't quite land, leaving threads loose and the world building a bit vague. Dual Shockers enjoys the mystery, but feels the ending comes off abrupt, rushed, and missing the deeper follow-through you'd expect after all those deliveries. Meanwhile, So Many Games is almost on the other side of the spectrum. They call the narrative meditative and satisfying, a tight short story that slowly pulls you in and culminates in a meaningful decision once you understand the history of the Fade and the island. Quick light spoiler in 3. 1. The game ultimately asks you to choose what to do once you finally understand why the radio tower exists and what the Fade really means for the island and the wider world. There's no giant twist cutscene. It's more of a you've seen enough, now decide how to respond moment. If you were expecting a huge lore dump, this is where it might feel vague or undercooked. If you like endings that feel like closing the last page of a short story, that's probably why So Many Games walked away happy. Spoiler over. Moment to moment, Fading Serenades is all about the delivery loop. You wake up, check what needs to go where, and start planning routes. Up the cliffs to the radio tower, across streams on logs, hopping stones over rivers, or balancing your way through small traversal mini-challenges. The sixth axis breaks it down. Packages come in different shapes and sizes, so you play inventory Tetris in your backpack, upgrading capacity over time. Routes get faster as you buy travel pamphlets that reduce time between zones. The more you play, the more your mental map tightens up and you start optimizing paths like it's a tiny, chill logistics game. That optimization is both a feature and a problem. So Many Games loves how the world slowly reveals its underlying systems, but points out that once you figure it all out, the island starts feeling flat and gritty instead of mysterious. You stop smelling the flowers and start min-maxing your routes. The sixth axis and Dual Shockers both hit the same wall in a different way. The missions get repetitive fast. Baron wants logs again from the same spot. Cooper keeps losing his records again. The daily quests are randomized, but you're mostly doing the same handful of tasks, and each character basically has one repeatable collection ask. That's the core conflict of the game. If you like the feeling of a ritual, a calming loop with small variations, this repetition is part of the appeal. It's the Strand game but tiny pitch. The act of delivery is the point, not the destination. But if you need more mechanical escalation or quest variety, Fading Serenades peaks early. You've seen most of what it can do long before the credits. Traversal minigames try to keep the walking from going fully brain dead. You balance across logs by adjusting your movement. You hop rocks by hitting the correct directional input before a tiny timer runs out. Climbing uses a little two-circle move red to white quickly stick challenge. Difficulty scales with how overloaded your pack is, which is a neat touch. So Many Games calls out a great audio detail here. The sound ramps up and the camera zooms in slightly as you do the challenge, selling tension without breaking the cozy feel. Where fading Serenades stumbles a bit is teaching any of this. DualShockers spent about 10 in-game days failing to realize that rock hopping was about tapping the directional with the timer. The game relies on context clues instead of explicit instructions, which sounds elegant until you're stuck, losing health, and damaging deliveries because a prompt is too subtle. To their credit, they frame it as a small UX tweak that could fix a lot of this frustration. But if you hate when games don't spell out mechanics, note that. There's a light survival angle. Failing traversal costs health and damages packages. Sprinting with special shoes drains you, and you'll rely on vending machine snacks and shrines to expand your stamina and safety net. Over time, deliveries pace so well that you can effectively brute force your way through mistakes with enough snacks and upgrades. That fits the cozy fantasy, but it also means the system stops pushing back after a while. You're more managing friction than real stakes. On top of that, you've got the day-night cycle. Time only moves when you change areas, which makes every route choice a little strategic. Push too late past 10 p.m. and Callum collapses wherever he is. Cooper finds you and scolds you, and you start the next day later with less time to deliver. Get to bed at a reasonable hour and you're up early and ready to grind out more packages. Some items only appear at night, which gives you a reason to occasionally choose bad sleep for good loot. Then there's the weird charm factor. You save at microwaves. They talk to you, sometimes with eerie little lines like, "Are you sure you are really you?" The art is saturated 16-bit style pixel work with a CRT filter that one reviewer actually preferred leaving on. It's colorful, readable, and unified enough that the island feels like a real place, at least until you start gaming the grid. And the music gets universal praise. Varied tracks for each area, strong melodies, and even a post office theme that had at least one critic just standing there, listening before going back to work. The rough edges are real though. DualShockers hit a progression bug where a key quest simply never appeared, and they had to contact the developer directly to move forward. The dev was responsive and patched their save, which is great, but it's still the kind of thing that can absolutely tank your experience if you hit it. The Sixth Axis mentions the story setting up lots of big ideas and then not quite closing them. So Many Games notes that the main quest can get buried behind side deliveries and confusing save point logic, even if they assume most people won't get as lost as they did. So where does that land us? Veteran Games verdict: Fading Serenades is a niche but strong little Strand-like. If the idea of a 3 to 6 hour, combat-free delivery game where the stakes are don't ruin Mrs. Whoever's package, and the payoff is a gentle story about humanity versus automation sounds great to you, this is absolutely worth a weekend evening. It's cozy, thoughtful, and impressive for a solo dev. But if repetition kills games for you, if you need your mysteries wrapped up cleanly, or if you see fetch quest and instantly uninstall, this one will probably wear out its welcome by the time Cooper loses his records for the 4th time. If this kind of no BS look at weird little indies is your thing, hitch a ride with Veteran Game and hit subscribe so we can keep dragging these smaller games into the spotlight. Not just whatever AAA is yelling the loudest that week. And if you're nodding along or completely disagreeing, toss a like so this take doesn't get lost in the algorithm fog. So here's the question I'll leave you with. When a game is this short, this focused, and this cozy, is a repetitive delivery loop a flaw? Or just the price of admission for sinking into a world that wants you to slow down, tune out, and carry other people's burdens for a while?